Remember, tomorrow from Moscow we can speak to the Russian media mogul Alexander Lebedev, who owns the Independent and the London Evening Standard newspapers here in the UK. Also holds a major stake in a Russian newspaper which has been one of Mr. Putin's most consistent detractors. Mr. Lebedev, a very warm welcome to you. Let's start with the free press. What will a Putin victory
mean?
Good morning. Good day to you. What will a Putin victory mean for the free press in Russia?
Well, let's start from actually the forecast, which is simplest. I think we have here three groups of electorate. One is indifferent, which is probably 40%, they won't show up. The other 60%, which is my forecast for the show up level to the polls. Let's split it into, say, 60-40. The 60, what you just called working class, who, by the way, fairly enough think that Russia has never lived better than in the recent 12 years under Putin. And that's simple, because historically, you can, and you surely know the Russian history, it probably is, you can understand their position. The other 40% are the most sort of educated and passionate part, and that is also a new generation, the ones who were going to the streets. We in Novaya Gazeta happen to be part of that piece, which is critical about what's going on, and the two most concerns. The third one is, of course, the rigged election of December. But the two most important things are corruption at the magnitude of hundreds of billions of US dollars taken out of the country by a very small number of people, laundered outside and parked in various offshore jurisdictions. And also the unfair treatment the people get from the bureaucracy, which is mostly interested in actually the corruption. This is what Navalny says, is that there could only be one economic policy in this country, which is don't lie and don't take bribes. Yeah. And meaning that anti-corruption campaigning is the most important piece of a criticism against Putin. So Putin probably will win with under 60%, with a show to the polls of around 60%. This is my forecast. Now he will have then to choose whether he tries to keep the things the way they've been here, which is not changing anything. I don't think this is a very wise way, because the protests will continue, hopefully in a peaceful way without any revolutionary outcome. This is what exactly the Novaya Gazeta is calling for. We've just seen an interview from Editor-in-Chief Murat yesterday. The other way is tightening the screws, which is what Shevtsova just mentioned. I frankly speak, it's also not an advisable way. And the third one is exactly what Putin promised to several Western newspapers, without Independent and Evening Standard. Unfortunately, we were not invited, though we asked for that. And Novaya Gazeta was also not invited to participate with any of the interviews. Well, he said he will go the liberal way, reforming Russia. For that, he probably needs to become number one in really fighting corruption rather than speaking about doing something with it. And I would dare say that he has a chance really to become number one in crusading, but that should be a global effort, because corruption is an international mechanism. I think we should actually call it a new form of apartheid.
Alexander, let's talk about electoral corruption. There have been many allegations of fraud and vote rigging, even in the build-up to the vote, and people being bribed to vote for Mr. Putin and all the rest of it. Sometimes that strikes a slightly incongruous note for Western observers, because we don't necessarily know to a great depth what's happening, but we see the pictures. We see pictures of Putin standing in the centre of a group of people taking, admittedly, cherry-picked questions for 4 hours. We see lots of opportunities for the people seemingly to present questions to him. There is this apparent semblance of transparency, which makes people in the West think, OK, here's Vladimir Putin, he's the strong man. He may not necessarily come with this great track record of transparency, but he seems to walk the walk to some degree.
Well, I've seen this guy film of Amanda's, which is pretty convincing, but I would rather say with tens of thousands of observers, with the cameras which Putin himself actually put to every polling station, I would think that would be really a kind of a very bad service to him. So the mechanisms do exist. This mechanism has been created in the recent 12 years by Surkov, and they've been widely used, for example, definitely in December. But I doubt he would need it this time. Probably he is the number one candidate who is mostly interested in not to give any evidence to the accusations of this election being rigged as well. So I would say probably they will not be applying a lot of those, though people might be or have to be very vigilant on it.
Yeah. But your feeling is he's got three options should he win, And your feeling is that of those three options you outlined for us, he is likely to instinctively want to pursue a more modernising agenda, or do you think he'll retrench back into what he knows and become a more controlling figure? What's your best guess?
I think the number three option, which is leaving the things the way they've been here for 12 years, is not really an option. But look at what has been happening outside. Certain fraudsters coming out of this country, like, for example, the recent Lebedev sentence in London for 22 months in prison. He fled Britain, though. He was looking for political asylum and received that. He's a former banker. I think people like that will be trying to accuse Putin of taking away their property, say, claiming they're New Yorkers, which would be not fair and not honest. But I mean, this is really what's happening. I've been reading Sunday Times about some international anti-corruption committee, which will be looking for things of Putin's corruption. Though in reality, the people forming it, I have my doubts about their real reputation. So if he doesn't become number one in fighting the corruption, in reforming the judicial system, in reforming the political and the electorate system, because most of these passionate people protesting have been deprived of any influence over the bureaucracy in the recent 12 years. So he either introduces this mechanism, or he would be then looking at the other option, which is tightening the screws. And it will be very interesting to follow up his personnel cadre policies, because the people who've been surrounding him for 12 years are definitely not ready to go the option number two, reforms. They're probably either only fit to keep the things the way they've been, and this is very wrong in my view, or to tighten the screws.
Yeah, as somebody famously once said, if things are going to stay the same, things will have to change. Alexander Lebedev, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
This is Sky News. Coming up, we'll have a look at the Saturday newspapers. We'll do so in the company of the author Cathy Lett and the journalist Nick Cohen.